Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Wisdom. I'm your host this morning, Robin Blank Muscari, and we get together twice a month to support your personal and professional development and bring all kinds of thought leaders to share with you to be of support to you. And today is a special day because we have a guest that's going to help us get a different perspective on things. And he's an internationally known author, humorist, workshop leader. He's been around for, oh my goodness, 35 years. He's written and performed as SwamiBeyondananda, the cosmic comic, and his comedy has been known as comedy disguised as wisdom and wisdom disguised as comedy. I love that Marianne Williamson calls him the Mark Twain of our generation. So more on the serious side, our guest co-authored Spontaneous Evolution. Many of you have read that, I know. It's a book he co-authored with cellular biologist Bruce Lipton, and he's currently working on spontaneous evolution in its current scene and helping people use humor as an evolutionary tool. And he also has a podcast, Front and Center. You can find him on YouTube all over the place. I was having fun this morning. I just searched him on YouTube and I've been giggling away before we started the call. So it is, and I do want to say this special man has been a friend for, oh my goodness, decades. I don't even know how long, at least 30. And I have been blessed with his joy, with his wisdom, and I get to share him with you. So welcome, Steve.
Well, great. It's great to be here on this podcast with you. Yeah, 30 years at least. Since the early 90s or prior to that. Maybe prior. Maybe past lives too.
That could be.
Exactly.
So I'm so happy that you're here, Steve. And
oh my goodness, a lot of people I know and love are there. I see that in the chat box.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah,
you have a
cohorts from around, my Zoom mates from around the world.
I love that Zoom. that's a new one.
How we connect these days is by Zoom. I presume.
Okay. So you came up with this great topic for today, the Great UpWising. What does that mean and why is it important, especially right now on this planet in these unique times?
Well, you know, as you mentioned, I wrote this book, Spontaneous Evolution, with Bruce Lipton, the cellular biologist. And as Bruce would say, you know, crisis precipitates evolution. If we look around us, we see the chances of precipitation are about 100%. There's a lot of crises on the planet. And the Great UpWising is a 4-step program, which apparently works 3 times faster than 12-step. And the 4 steps are wake up, wise up, grow up, show up. So we want to wake up to the illusion of separation. That's the great illusion that keeps a lot of these crises and trauma in place. Wise up to the power of love, to that power of coherence that, yeah, regardless of the separation we might have in every other way, we are united at the heart. Grow up to be the you were meant to be. Each of us is totally unique, just like everybody else. Very important that we have that expression. We move from children of God to adults of good, right? That's the grow up. And finally, show up on a new playing field, ready to play a new game, thrival for each and all, off of the old battlefield onto the new playing field. So that's the upwising, and humor is a great tool because it takes us out of the duality of the mind and puts us in the unity of the heart. Because there's often an aha in the wake of a ha-ha, right? We have an insight. And then there's an ah, hearty laughter. Ah, it opens the heart. In the brain, in the mind, we have these beliefs. And what people believe is totally unbelievable. So we want to leave that duality of the head to the unity of the heart. And the cosmic comic paradox right now is the world's in serious condition, and yet there's definitely something funny going on.
Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful, the duality of the mind and the unity of the heart, because that's one of the biggest challenges I think so many of us have dealt with in our personal life and our professional life is the separation. And so the upwising can get us back connected. Yeah.
That's the purpose of it. Yeah.
I love it. Well, we're living in very challenging times and humor is so important. So how do we activate the power of humor when things are not funny out there?
Well, first of all, again, it's recognizing that the power of love is prime. Everything else is derivative. So what some people would call, quote unquote, evil is really the absence of love. And it's the absence of love that allows those sociopathogens to develop in the body politic and so on. So when we laugh, there's a wonderful true story that I love to tell because it's similar to the kinds of crises we're experiencing right now. 50 years ago, we're about to celebrate the 50th anniversary this October of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is the closest we humans have come to blowing ourselves up so far. We still have opportunities, of course. A true story, John Kenneth Galbraith, who was an American economist, at the time, there were some American and Soviet delegates meeting to discuss possible trade between the two countries. And when news of the missile crisis hit, everything stopped. There was tremendous tension in the room, and people who were afraid they might never see their loved ones again. And so tremendous tension. And finally, one of the Soviet delegates very timidly raised his hand. He said, I suggest we each go around and tell a joke. And he volunteered to start. His joke was, what's the difference between capitalism and communism? In capitalism, man exploits man. In communism, it's the other way around. And the entire room exploded in a good way with laughter. And because of the fundamental spiritual truth that when there are no sides, only angles, and when we look at it from the right angle, we're all on the same side, that truth was so overwhelming, it released all of the tension and they were able to continue their work. So the power of humor is that it can bust the trance of separation through a little insight that detonates ideas that no longer serve and leaves people standing.
Oh my goodness, there's no sides, only angles. Humor has so many dimensions of power. I remember years ago, one of my teachers, DeWitt Jones, I went to an hour-long talk and I felt like my life changed. And I went up to him afterward. I said, what do you do that really goes so deep, so fast? And he talked about humor. And when we laugh, something inside of us opens up. And then afterward, he put in a zinger intentionally because there's this open space. So you just modeled that so beautifully that it is disarming in many ways, huh?
It is. It's interesting. You ever wonder why jokes happen in threes? A minister, a priest, and a rabbi, right? A minister, a priest, and a rabbi are discussing their legacy. How do they want to be remembered? What do they want the eulogist to be saying when they're in their coffin? And the minister thinks for a minute. He says, I want them to be saying he was a family man and a pillar of his community. The priest said, I want them to be saying he was a holy man and a leader of his flock. The rabbi said, I want them to be saying, look, I think he's breathing. So, so what a joke does is it sets up something that is usual and predictable, and then pulls out the rug with an unpredictable third way. Most of the conflicts that we have in life, whether it's individual or as groups, have to do with polarizing one side or the other. And very rarely do we have anything that gives us something in the middle. And so by busting that trance of separation, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. Here's a true story. Okay, a true story about, I was at a health conference about, 25 years ago in California. And I was talking about irony deficiency. Seeing a doctor won't help, but seeing a paradox will. And at that point, I pointed out the paradox of people who called themselves pro-life and yet favored the death penalty. Well, after the program, a woman came up to me, obviously pro-life. She was very insulted and very angry that I had, criticized her position. So I told her a joke, but she didn't know I was telling her a joke. And again, minister, priest, and a rabbi, you got to rely on them. They were being on a TV show, and they were being asked, when does life begin? And the priest said, life begins at conception. The woman is shaking her head. Yes, she doesn't know I'm telling her a joke. And the minister said, life begins when the baby takes the first breath. And she's shaking her head, no. And then finally, Rabbi, when does life begin? The rabbi said, life begins when the children leave home and the dog dies. This woman burst out laughing and she hugged me.
Oh.
So it busted that third way that created a sense of absurdity, that busted that rigidity of it's this position or that position.
Wow. So what can we be doing in these unfunny times to wake up that tickle bone and take things lighter and look for more connection versus duality?
Well, first is really on the serious side, remember that there's unity and wholeness in the heart. We all have that connection that we can plug in and connect with. And the world changes for us when we make that connection. And instead of looking for happiness out there, we live in a society where we're supposedly pursuing happiness. You look at some people, you go, wow, they must have run right past it. Yeah. So, so the idea, first of all, is to recognize that the truth of the matter, the heart of the matter is the matter of the heart. That's really where everything resides. And humor restores that hearty laughter. So first of all, there's an actual practice. I call it self-facing laughter. If you're feeling grumpiness, Swami calls this truth decay, which can lead to hemorrhoids, by the way. Irregular hilarity and hemorrhoids, terrible thing. That's an enlargement of the onus, where you feel so much responsibility that the only thing you're able to pass is heavy judgment. So the way to avoid hemorrhoids is, at the first sign of irregular hilarity, look in the mirror and simply lovingly laugh in your own face. If you can laugh in your own face, you're laughing in the face of the ego. And if you recognize that most conflicts are egoic conflicts, it's people want to be right. So when my wife Trudy and I, we have a playful way of getting off the battlefield. When we realize that we're kind of grumpy and on the battlefield, one of us will say, it's time to get off the battlefield. And the other will say, but I wasn't done being right yet. So if you recognize that most conflicts that are not really life or death conflicts, that are not life-threatening, but are basically laugh-threatening, those laugh-threatening conflicts are basically the ego wanting to be right, the ego wanting to be in control, when we need to put the heart in command. So as you said earlier, humor reminds us of that, like your friend DeWitt. He was DeWitt, and we want to use DeWitt as much as we can. So there's a 4-step plan, again, for which parallels the Great UpWising, for achieving cosmic comic consciousness. When something happens that's not life-threatening, but is laugh-threatening, remember the mantra, it's a joke, laugh. As a fundamentalist, with the accent on fun, Swami says life is a joke, but God is laughing with us, not at us.
That's and I love it. That's so beautiful. And I love that you and Trudy have, a way to give each other the big tickle. I remember in Annie Hall, Woody Allen says, have you achieved a state of total heaviosity? And you can't not laugh, it's like sometimes that laughter just breaks things open. So you've got a buddy that's been on the road with you for a long time. And would you like to introduce him and share a little bit about how he came to be your partner?
Well, I say I got struck by lightning during a brainstorm. The name SwamiBeyondananda flew into my head. And would you like to meet the Swami?
Absolutely.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to turn the camera off. And when I turn the camera back on, I will be disappeared and the Swami will be here.
I
Okay,
love
you
it.
can talk to him
Okay,
directly.
Swami, come on. And for those of you that have never met Swami, you're in for a treat. SwamiBeyondananda, the combination of Ram Dass and Haagen-Dazs, right? And here he comes.
Ah, look at that.
That.
Ah, yes, I had to put this on because I am turban powered.
So how did you come to being SwamiBeyondananda?
Well, I've been being for a long time. I've had many lifetimes. You and I, by the way, have had significant lifetimes in the past. We were lamas in Tibet. Do you remember that? Actually, you were a lama. I was a yak. A yak is a talking llama. But I've been around I remember when I was a single cell organism, and boy, that was tough. I couldn't make a single cell.
Did you know we all started as a stem cell?
We did, and then we branched out.
So when did you meet Steve?
Well, yes, this is going back to about 35 years. And again, I was looking for a vehicle to drive my karma with, and he appeared. And this way I can spread the cosmic karmic consciousness and help people achieve full realization. That is when you realize I'm a fool and there's nothing you could do about it but laugh. And that's one of the great things that we have been given is the gift of laughter. The gift of laughter. You've probably heard the story about Norman Cousins. Diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, he checked into a hotel room with Marx Brothers movies and he got well. And when he healed himself, the medical establishment decided they are going to study the healing power of humor, which is kind of like, well, it works in practice, but does it work in theory? And they found out that when we laugh physiologically, it creates these hormones called endorphins, our natural painkillers. Laughing improves immune function. Laughter lowers the blood pressure because when we laugh, it causes our blood vessels to dilate. Better than having them die early. We want ourselves to die as late as possible. And I know that you're involved with helping people stay younger. Of course, you have to be careful about this. I read about there was a product that was guaranteed to make you 20 years younger, and the FDA took it off the market after an 18-year-old took it and disappeared. But I have a secret, the secret to living to be 150. It's so obvious. Would you like to hear it?
Of course.
Here's how simple it is. Postpone your midlife crisis until you're 75.
I'm going to take that into account.
Yes, of course. And then, of course, there's elderberries. Older people need to be eating elderberries. If more elders ate elderberries, they would be burying fewer elders.
I happen to have some of those. I'm going to remember that.
That's right. How old are they? How old are your elderberries?
Yeah, they're old. They're very old.
Oh, well, that's good. The older, the better.
So I know that a lot of people, do you have any other secrets for staying younger?
Oh, well, I think that if somebody asked me recently, what is the secret to being young again? Reincarnation. Like that. Start at the beginning and work your way up again. But actually, the thing is that part of this youthing idea is having a certain attitude. Ashley Montague wrote a book called it Neoteny, which is taking on the traits of young people: curiosity, flexibility, playfulness. That is the whole point of playfulness. You know, the average child I read laughs 150 times a day. The average adult, hardly at all. Do the math and do the aftermath.
Okay, why I wonder why we get serious and don't play as much as we get older. Is society just, is it not acceptable? How could we change that? Because it's really important.
Well, you know what? I think what happens is I call it the path to full realization. We all begin as innocent fools. We're, because a baby can be fooled, right? Peekaboo. That is how babies are fooled. And as children, we get to believe, we are given the most unbelievable things to believe, and we believe them. Well, then we are told to get serious, right? Get serious, and then we become serious fools. We get tricked into believing that something out there is going to make us happy. And then when we get disappointed, the first step to full realization, we become conscious fools. We recognize how we've been fooled. But it's the fourth step. We become cosmic fools, where we bring back the innocence of a child. One of the great comedians that I love, Stephen Wright, they asked him, how do you write your material? He said, I try to think like a child. I try to think like a child. I was at a picnic. There was a little boy, he's 5 years old, maybe. He had a dog. And he has a dog's tail in his hand. He's doing this with the dog's tail. I said, what are you doing? He says, I want the dog to be happy.
Oh.
So we think like children. Stephen Wright, I love his joke. This is how old the joke is. He wanted to learn Spanish. So he bought a record to teach him Spanish while he slept. But the record skipped, and now he can only stutter in Spanish.
Be like a child. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So you gave us some great secrets on youthing and getting younger. Do you want to get a little more serious in our last few minutes?
Sure. How serious would you like? What would you like me to answer?
I really don't want to get serious.
Oh, if you have an answerable question, I have a questionable answer. So give me a question.
Well, you are, tell us about your book, because.
Oh, you mean Spontaneous Evolution?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's Steve's book, but I'm in there too, so I can tell you that the idea behind spontaneous evolution is that we are at a point right now where the old paradigm, this old paradigm, it committed 1,000 crimes, all the old paradigm, which is dualities, which are the two incomplete belief systems of top-down religion that disempowers, that is a patriarchal top-down religion, and then science, or the religion of science, scientific materialism, that denies the world beyond the visible, that says only the material world is real. Each of these systems is incomplete, and they are fighting it out on the battlefield. So we need to leave that old battlefield of dualities and come to a new playing field. We have both sides be dynamic duo dance partners. Progressive and conservative, the body politic needs two strong wings to fly. We need to ask the two functional questions of progressive and conservative. How do we want to progress, and what do we want to conserve? And we need to bring all sides together, the red tribe and the blue tribe together, to sit in sacred circle until they're purple in the face.
Oh my gosh. That's exactly what we need. So do you believe, Swami, that in our lifetime, we're going to actually heal this duality?
Well, you know what? It depends on how long we live. So it's very important, the work that you're doing, because the longer people live, the more opportunity we will have to heal this breach. I don't make any predictions because I don't want to lose my nonprofit status. But can I do a little bit of a channeling before we go?
Oh, please.
Okay, now, because again, people want me to make predictions. You know, they try to predict the weather, but one little butterfly fart, just like that, and everything can change. So to me, the greatest wisdom on predictions was delivered by the great philosopher and center fielder, Willie Mays. And Willie Mays was being interviewed by the sportscaster, Howard Cosell. I'm going to channel the interview for you. It went like this. We're talking with Willie Mays. Willie, let me ask you this. Are the Giants going to win the pennant this year, Willie Mays? And Willie Mays said, I don't know, Howard. That's what we're going to play this season to find out. So that is what we are playing this season to find out. We need to shift our intention toward this world that works for all. Charles Eisenstein calls it the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. That is the prize we need to put our eye on. We need to focus on where we want to go rather than fighting about where we have been. And so that is the world we are choosing to live into. And every day that we let love and happiness radiate from us, we are creating heaven on earth in the moment.
So that's our job.
That's our job. Let's, why don't we go for heaven on earth just for the hell of it?
Yeah. Okay, well, we've got our work to do. Are there any other practices that you would recommend for us to help make that evolutionary shift?
Well, again, I would say that the first practice is as soon as you feel the first pangs of irregular hilarity, put yourself in the center point of the heart. As I said, the heart of the matter is the matter of the heart. In this sacred heart, we experience the oneness, the light, in order to metabolize all of the darkness out there. We humans have been living under the rule of the lowest common denominator for 5,000 or 10,000 years. This has left us with a lot of residue, if you know what I'm saying. So our challenge, the question we have to ask is, can we undo the doo-doo that has been done, or will the done doo-doo be our undoing? That is the task that we have in front of us.
I think you just brought in my dear friend Helen, who's in heaven right now. She says, we're so busy doing, we end up with a lot of doo-doo. That's right. It's a doobie-doobie-doo imbalance. Too much doing, not enough being. So if you've been finding yourself spending too much time being a doer, sit back and do a beer instead. Do a or a doobie, depending on what you do. So it's what I'm hearing is it's each and every one of our responsibility to make that shift into that accessing more of our child, accessing more of our playfulness, accessing more of our humor, and then coming from our heart and coming together. Yes. Yeah, if we allow ourselves to be happy, then that's one less person that somebody else has to try to make happy. We are taking care of ourselves, where we are our own happiness generator, and that is what creates heaven on earth, because we're not here to earn God's love. We're here to spend it. I love that. Okay, what other final, you want to share a little bit about how people can stay connected with you? I'll put it in the chat for you. Okay, good. Well, first of all, send me an email at info@wakeuplaughing.com, wakeuplaughing.com. And I'm actually doing a live show in the Santa Rosa, California area in Rohnert Park next Saturday night, March 19th. I will be appearing in the flesh finally. And I have to say, it feels very refreshing. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Yeah. This is the first show I'm doing since the last show I did. Okay. And by the way, people are very, very concerned now about the price of gas in California. And so I have a plan. Come to the Swami show and spend half the money on gas. Just take a friend with you and have them share. There you go. That's how to cut your gas price in half. Yeah, that's beautiful. As we're getting out more in the world, we're getting to see each other. Any other, comments as we step into this new way, because we're not going back to where we were. Any suggestions for how we can be as we, expand our world a little bit more from our homes these days? Well, I think it's very important that we release this fear. One of the great damaging things that has happened during this pandemic is the release of fear. Fear gnomes, little gnomes of fear, were released into the body politic, and that makes us less intelligent. It makes us more susceptible to not just propaganda, but impropaganda. And so in order for us to remain sovereign soul proprietors over our own soul, we have to actually very gently
help other people see above and beyond these fearful narratives and recognize that love is more powerful than fear. Otherwise, we'd be singing, all you need is fear. We're not singing that. That's good.
All you need is love. I love it. I love it. And that has been one of the greatest challenges for so many people. Maybe they're watching too much TV or whatever, but shifting away from fear into love. And that
Right.
will connect us, have us come from our heart, heal these divisions, and be upwised.
Yes. And by the way, if you find yourself watching too much media, either mainstream or alternative, you need every night, you need to prevent truth decay by clearing your mind through mental floss like this. 4 out of 5 transcendentists recommend mental floss to prevent truth decay.
I love it. Well, that's a great place, and it's the bottom of the hour. That's a wonderful place to complete. Swami and Steve, are you willing to stand by for a few minutes of questions from people?
Okay, good. Now, you want me I'm wanted for questioning, or I can bring Steve back, whichever you want.
I don't know.
We can start with me. I'll take,
You'll take.
I'm wanted for questioning anyway, so that's good.
Okay, so if any of you have questions for Swami, he's here with us for a little bit, and then we can bring Steve back. And Bill Sefton wants to go to your show. He wants the details. And he said he's going to go with 4 or more. So he can reach out to you on info at
wakeuplaughing.com. If you go to wakeuplaughing.com, click on calendar.
Okay.
I will, that has the show. And by the way, Robin, after the show, I'll send you the link so you can share that with anybody who asks if they can't find it.
Yeah, we'll get it out in our newsletter for people. When is your show?
It's Saturday night, March 19th. It's in Rohnert Park at a place called the Heartwood Church.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So
if anything would help us, the heart would.
Oh, yes, that's so true. So we're open for questions. If any of you in the audience want to ask Swami any questions, Jennifer Starr is with us, Swami.
Oh, good. I recognize that star.
Yes, a great star. And people are saying, thank you so much. Thank you. Great job, Steve. They're saying, I wish you could hear us all laughing. I don't see any questions. Any questions from any? We have great wisdom here.
Oh.
Great wisdom. If you want, if you have any concerns about this time, we have someone's hand is up. Let's see. Joyce. Okay, Joyce, you can talk and ask. You want to unmute your line?
I think she's immutable.
She's immutable. She needs to unmute, but or you can type it in because I don't see you unmuting, but you can type your question if you'd like. Anyone else have a question until Joyce figures out how to unmute her line? Okay. So, okay, Jennifer has a question and she is unmuted. Go for it, Jennifer.
Swami, it's so fun to see you again.
Oh, it's good to see you. You're almost, seeing your picture is almost as good as seeing you.
So what happens to stem cells after they branch out?
Well, they become you and me. I mean, that's how it all starts out. We all stem from the same stem cell. And, this is the process of life unfolding. Back in the day, I called it the universal love story. We started as single cell organisms. And it was tough. I didn't make a single sale back when I was a single cell. It's a long time ago. And then what happens is that at some point they decided, I want to be in a relationship. I'm tired of being single, multi-cell organisms. And then we became complex. People, you and I have upwards of 50 trillion cellular citizens all gathered together and focused around this one coherent idea. And so the next phase of human evolution is recognizing we're all cells in the same body of humanity, and that so much of the human behavior that we manifest is autoimmune dysfunction. And so we have to actually work on our immune system so that we actually laugh to disarm ourselves. And I think that is how our stem cells can keep us developing in a good way over many, many lifetimes.
Thank you for your wisdom, Swami.
Thank you. Hope to see you on the outer net one of these times. Our trip to the Northwest sometime.
There you go. Okay, wake up with awareness, wise up to the power of love, grow up to be the you were meant to be, and show up on a new playing field, ready to play a new game. I love it. Okay, that was Leslie paraphrasing you so beautifully. Well,
Good
I'm
job.
not seeing any questions here. You guys, he's here if you want him. Okay, here we go. Sarah's asking, how do we deal with our family who's on the other side of the current health crisis? How do we create unity with family members that see it differently? And I know that's a serious that we need to shift.
Well, I got struck by enlightening, as I said, and I discovered the great argument ender, the great universal argument ender. It goes like this: you're absolutely right, and so am I. That's the truth. The truth is that, beliefs lie in your head. Truth lives in your heart. So are you going to believe the lies in your head or the truth in your heart? That's what it comes down to. And that is really where we have to be. When people polarize like this, the media really helps us polarize. It feeds us narratives that makes the other side the devil. But I say that, unfortunately, both of these two sides have only part of the picture. So if you're stuck on one side or the other, the idea is to unify. Now, if we actually were a healthy body politic, when this pandemic came out, we would have been looking for every possible way of dealing with it, rather than closing down the holistic system and installing an asa-holistic system, right? So I think if there was no force and all opportunities for healing and treatment open, we would all be together and we would have handled this a lot better than we did. Without the fear, empowering treatments at the early point that were disempowered. Yes, very important that we acknowledge that. And when we're put into fear, it narrows our focus of attention. We need to expand our focus of attention, recognizing that life is diverse. It wants diverse ways of dealing with problems. You narrow it down to one, you paint yourself into the proverbial corner.
That's so beautiful, because I know that a lot of families and relationships are being polarized, and I just invite people to be curious, help me understand why you believe this way, not trying to convince anyone.
Exactly.
Coming from that place of how can we include instead of create separation.
A quick thing on that. The Serious podcast that I'm part of, but Steve Bhaerman does with Michael McSenty, is called Front and Center, Writing Our New Story Together, from Political Battlefields to Cooperative Playing Fields. And one of the guests, you go to locals.com, Front and Center, or you can do Front and Center with Michael and with Steve and Michael on YouTube, and you'll find it. One of the people we interviewed, Charles Randall Paul, has something called spiritual diplomacy, and he himself is a Mormon, and he invites all kinds of people to speak their truth into a listening, where you don't have to change your own belief to encompass and be curious about what other people believe. And that way, we are actually a team of rivals where we have differing beliefs, but we're using them to discover the truth together rather than to fight one another.
A big exhale on that one.
That's good. Yes, that's right. It's good to exhale. That's good to exhale. By the way, one of the ways of the primary way of catching that disease is by inhaling. So if you stop breathing, you will not get it.
Let's not go on the mask situation. We'll skip that one this time, because there's different beliefs about that, and we don't want to create separation. We want to be here to unify people. Any final comments, Swami, before we close for today, of how do we unify and upwise, and how do we be more resilient at these interesting times?
Well, as I would say, whenever you find yourself being too serious, on your road to getting hemorrhoids, stop, look in the mirror and smile. When you smile, this is really, it's called the levitational pull, like that. That actually changes your physiology. When you do this, even if you're not happy, your body thinks you're happy and creates happiness hormones. So people say, how do I uplift humankind? Begin by uplifting the corners of your mouth. You'll make the world a better place.
So beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just got to tell you, Bill just bought 4 tickets.
Oh my God, that's great. Have him. This is the law of karma. This is the law of karma. Just early this morning, I paid a bill, and now a bill is paying me. Karma.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, Stephen.
Have him come introduce himself.
Okay, Bill, go meet Stephen Swami when you're in Roanoke Park. I'd love to meet you, and anyone else who's in Northern California, worth the trip for sure. And load up your car. Okay, so at this time we get to complete our 30 minutes of wisdom, and I want to thank you, Stephen Swami, for being with us and sharing your great wisdom and upwising for us, being uplifted, connecting more to our joy and our child, and using humor in these unfunny times to really break through and get more connected here and dissolve the separation that gets created from there.
Namaste and namasko. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. And thank you everyone for being with us today. It was wonderful to chuckle together. And I know I couldn't hear you, but several of you were chuckling and I could feel it. Oh, there was a question and I missed it. Okay.
Oh, we can come back. No?
Oh, you're back. Oh, good.
I haven't gone anywhere.
Well,
I'm still here.
this is a really valuable one. Tips for starting the day laughing.
Well, I look in the mirror and pretend I'm looking at somebody else.
So mirror work is very powerful, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. It's a reflection on yourself. And that is to face, if you face the world, if you can face yourself early in the morning and just laugh, and you could just ha 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 ha, just like that. There's laughter yoga, which is laughing for no reason at all. And laughing for no reason is good enough reason to laugh.
Perfect way to end. I love it. Thank you. And thank you, Michelle, for asking that. That's great. So thank you everyone for being with us. And this will be on the YouTube channel later today. So you can share it with other people if you like. And have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye.